Hello, welcome to this week's episode of Heavy Metal Tones with me, your podcast host, Tony Evans. I have been away back in the old country for the last few weeks, so I'm really glad to be back in front of the mic. It was really nice to chat with Will last week from Past the Fall. I'm glad you enjoyed my two poorly recorded interviews. I realise now what was I had the mic headphones on, and if I've got passive and active headphones, and I must have turned them on, and then it went into active mic, and boom, shitty house sound. Well, for me anyway. I'm sure everyone was okay with it. I still enjoyed the interviews, but what made me think about this episode this week was that I spent a few days wandering around the old haunts of London, as you do when you haven't been somewhere for a long time. I hadn't been back in the UK for 20 years, so it was like, okay, this is really good to do. And the first thing I did was I mooched on down on a very cold wintry morning down to Wardour Street. Now, excuse me, also in the background there's music playing. My darling wife is in the bedroom in the other room, and she's got music playing, and even with the two doors shut, this mic may pick it up. If it picks it up, I'm really sorry. It should only just be in the background. It is Brian Ferry, so it's okay. Now, what I was going to say, yes, I was mooching down Wardour Street. Now, anyone been to the UK and knows anything about, well, has any kind of musical common sense would know where the marquee is, well, where the marquee used to be. So the marquee's been on in several locations, but the one I remember the most was Wardour Street. It's one I used to go to before it moved to Charing Cross Road, I think it moved to. Yeah, it did. Yes, 105 Charing Cross Road it moved to, but that was in 1996. But from 1965, from 1964 onwards, at 165, in 1964, at 90 Wardour Street, is what I'm trying to say, guys. Too many numbers and too many numbers and too many numbers. 1964 to 1988, it was at 90 Wardour Street. Now, I remember it very, very well. Now, what made me feel upset and wanted to talk about this program was an old man alert here, old man alert. I'm going to get into old man mode in a minute, curmudgeon-y mode. But I went down Wardour Street, and there was no blue plaque to the marquee. There was a blue plaque that said Keith Moon once played here, but I find that really disconcertingly offensive, because yes, Keith Moon is a very important drummer, one of the best drummers in history, and extremely important rock and roll, one of my favourite bands of all time. But really, just Keith Moon played here, not Jimi Hendrix, not Metallica, not Iron Maiden, you name it, they've played it there. David Bowie, for instance, the Muddy Waters. I could name so many of them that played there. In fact, I've got a piece of paper in front of me. King Crimson, The Who, Led Zeppelin, The Yardbirds, Jimi Hendrix, Pink Floyd, Jethro Tull, yes. Not to mention all the punk bands, all the heavy rock bands, and so on. Now, I know that the Clash and all these people. Now, I know that nothing can. The Jethro Tull's B-side, A Song for Jeffrey, was recorded there. The B-side to I can't remember which one the B-side is to now. I've gone blank. But it doesn't matter. Anyway, it's B-side. Doesn't matter. That aside, lots and lots of history recorded this tiny little cavernous venue. Look at the cavern in Liverpool. Now, it's the Beatles, and I grant you the Beatles are the biggest band in history, and so the cavern will be looked after. But the marquee equally, I think, where I'm coming from with this direction, this conversation, is that it seems to me that we just want to. I understand. I understand progress, because the marquee had to move, and it moved to Charing Cross, and it moved from Charing Cross to Leicester Square, so it had a few lives, but that's not what I'm trying to what I'm trying to say here is that why are we so willing to pull down and destroy our culture? And I don't think it's so much here in Australia or around maybe, I don't know, in your parts of the world, but it seems to be in the UK that we just bulldoze over our arts because it doesn't mean anything. it feels to me, and I mean, here's a bit of a political rant here. It feels like it's a bit of a sort of a Tory thing, a little bit of a Conservative Party thing, eh? It doesn't make us millionaires, So we're gonna pull down. It doesn't matter if we pull it down, but it does mean so much to all of us. I mean, I trod the boards at the Marquee. Once held a guitar on that stage. It's a really important place. I mean, for those people of my age and older, maybe one generation above me, so 50 and 60s, they're going to know what it felt like to go to the Marquee. I mean, I remember my mate Crazy Mark queuing up to see Metallica at the Marquee. Really quite important part, because that time they hadn't quite broken, and so it was like just at the beginning of their careers, so they were really cutting edge before they become sort of that bland stuff that they sort of went through for a period. So I just get my tea. I'm recording this late at night, so I apologise. I've had a long day at work, and I was going to toying up whether I have tea or whiskey, but I thought, well, the tea's probably better. I'll sleep better. Anyway, so the Marquee. I'm not going to go into the full history of the Marquee. I just want to say that basically I saw so many bands there. I saw Marillion there. Marillion, in fact, did a huge run in the early 80s off the back of this the Script for Justice Tear tour at the Marquee. My friend's band Ruptured Dog played there. 999 UK Subs, GBH. I saw where else did I see? I'm trying to think who I saw. I mean, honestly, innumerable amounts of people. I spent a lot of time in that dark and dingy place, and it was what I loved about rock and roll venues. That's what I love about the basement here in Canberra. It's this dark and dingy, smelly, sticky floors. Graffiti on the toilets, posters where all over the place, beer spilling all over the place. And, just a place where true rock and roll is born, and where true rock and roll lives. It sort of. You had a lot of blues played there in the 60s. The roots and rock and roots revival, sort of in the 1970s, it's when it started to really take off. It became the place to play. It really, really did. It nurtured a large social scene based around the record industry. Everyone and anyone that was in the record industry was at that particular venue. It had a VIP bar. I don't know if anyone remembers it, but on a hot, sweaty Saturday when a band was there, you would get squashed in. There was not a lot of room, was there? And the Buzzcocks. I saw the Buzzcocks there, and that was crazy. The bass player was going to take it, was going fisticuffs with one of the so-called punks in the front row. It was really, really funny. Status Quo played there. Bowie filmed the 1980 floor show at the Marquee for American NBC TV, Midnight Special. It was just... Anyway, I could go on and on and on. What I'm saying is, where I'm coming to on this, XTC, as I said, the Buzzcocks, X-Ray Specs, Eddie and the Hot Rods. It became really... even though it was known for its heavy rock stuff, it was really known for the punk stuff. The Stranglers, Generation X, London, the Police, the Joy Division, the Sound, the Cure, Rory Gallagher, all these people, all our heroes played there. So what I mean is, when you can't stand in the way of progress, right? Progress is progress. I really get that, and you do sometimes have to expand and grow and move, and that's also good as well. And venues do come and live and die, and it is a sort of like the music industry, I suppose. Live music venues are like the music industry; they'll swell with periods of glut, and they'll shrink in periods of drought. And that drought usually is now down to the modern way we consume music. Our downloads, internets, and so on. So we don't need to reach out and go to live acts, as much as we used to. I'm sure there are still scenes around in London. I'm sure. I do know that the Camden Town is still very live. The World's End and so on. It's still very, very. The Camden Palais and so on is still very vibrant. But not everyone, that's not, it's not a scene for everyone, is it? I remember when names would change but stay the same. Like I went to the Hammersmith Odeon while I was over there in the UK to see Musical Box do the whole of A Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, which is brilliant. But it's called the Hammersmith. It's called the Hammersmith Event Time. Now, it was the Apollo before that. It really doesn't fucking matter, does it? It'll always be the Odeon. It was the scene of my very first ever live gig. Seeing Black Sabbath, it was the Odeon. It will always be the Odeon. In fact, it was weird when I went there. It felt like the train station was closer to the venue than it used to be. I don't know in 20 years whether that's been built up and moved closer. I don't know. But it was still the same place. It still had the same toilets at the back where I threw up. It still had the balcony in the front where I chucked beer over the top of it. It still had all those nuances. Just they changed the name. The beauty is it's still the same, right? Same shit, same smell. But unfortunately, that's not always the case, and the Marquee was one classic example of it. I do remember roughly when I went back in 2003, the last time I went back before this last one, and it had been a gay nightclub for a little while, which I thought, hey, great, that's positive. That doesn't matter. Music's being played here. That's a positive thing. I don't really mind as long as there's live music coming. But no, it had died really around then anyway. But it just felt very sad. I felt this real sense of despair and sadness that there wasn't a big sign saying here once Hendrix played his first London show, or here is where Maiden, sold out prior to signing to EMI. All this sort of stuff. I mean, pubs where these bands played, they come and go because pubs are transient and are not known as musical venues, right? Coach and Horses and stuff like that, where Maiden played, and where the Stranglers played, and all sort of, that's fine because they're just little stingy stages behind the back of a pub where a publican is trying to make some extra money on a Saturday night, get the crowds in. But when you've got a musical venue designed for musical shows, then it is sad when they go. Now, is it an old man thing to think, am I just being nostalgic? Probably am. I probably am. If you think about the generations now, I don't think the generations now will have that nostalgia, but they will eventually, because there will be a time when venues that they went to no longer exist, and you will walk past there like I did, with a sort of sense of sadness and depression. Really, I had good thoughts because I thought of the things like there was now I don't know if any of you guys are going to remember this, but there used to be a nightclub down. Now I couldn't tell you the name of the street. We took a photograph of it. I can't remember the name of the street, but it was you walk down it there's a street that goes towards the British Telecom Tower, and it used to be a club they called Los Lobos, and it was a Mexican club, and you'd go there and you'd buy very heavily priced tequila off from semi-naked bartenders, and you did it because hey, you thought that was you were young and you didn't know any better. Now it would get cancelled, wouldn't it, because it wouldn't be allowed. But back then, and that wasn't there either. That'd gone. I mean, obviously that sort of thing will come and go because again, it's a nightclub and musical tastes change, don't they, and concepts of that change. But still, that side, it was just a really strange day for me. But the Marquee. Now, is there any other venue, honestly, apart from the Hammersmith Odeon, any other venue that really sticks in the mind of the musical fan of our genre, of a metal genre, of punk and rock, as much as the Marquee? Everyone has heard of the Marquee, haven't they? I mean, the Who played there before they were signed. I mean, this is an extremely important venue, and we have just culture vulture ruined it, haven't we? We've just destroyed it. Instead of getting a government backing and being, registered building, this is a listed building, you can't build over it, you can't build in it, you can't do it. No. The mighty pound, and so it gets moved because all to do with like licensing laws and things like that. How ridiculous. zoning laws, and so it gets moved to the centre of into Leicester, into Charing Cross Road, where I also had good experiences in the Charing Cross Road version of it. I did see a fair few bands. I think the last band I saw there was the UK Subs with GBH. I think I remember taking Karen to see that gig. Yeah, that was a good gig, that one. And it was, again, it wasn't the best venue. It was a bit small. I think if it could be any smaller, I think it was. Those who can reach out and tell me if they remember when it was in Charing Cross. But I remember it being a slightly smaller than the marquee on Wardour Street. But again, no plaques anywhere. And there's a good reason why in Charing Cross Road, because when I went there, again, a few weeks ago, it is completely changed, completely redeveloped, completely different. Now, I'd love to know what your feelings are on this subject. I'm quite emotional about it, actually. I could be more effusive. I'm not going to be, because I don't want to be one of those people. But, there is progress. I hear you say yes, but there's going to be progress, Tony. Yeah, I get progress. There's progress and there's progress, isn't there, right? There's tearing everything down and completely forgetting it. And then there's being irreverent and saying, well, I hate to say this, but it's so true. The Europeans, the Germans and the French and the Italians and so on, they really know how to look after their heritage. They wouldn't pull down an important musical venue like that. They just wouldn't do it. It would be something that would be revered and looked after, and the government would pay for that place to be open. And even if it was, you know what, they could have turned that little venue into a museum. You wouldn't be much, but I would pay good pounds to go around that, to look at donated drum kits, donated guitars, photographs of gigs, go into the hallowed back room where all the graffiti is. I went in there, and I'd keep the dank, people. The dank. Don't get rid of the dank. Keep the darkness. Keep the stickiness. Keep the spirit and fire of rock and roll there, and it would make a good little museum. And you know what? I reckon you would get droves of music nerds heading to the marquee, and every now and again you could put on you could have a TV screen, right? Imagine like a little film theatre at the back, and every now and again you could put on, because there's lots of live videos, lots of live gigs with film there. You could play for a certain fee, entered in quadraphonic sound with the smell of the venue. You could pipe in noise of the crowd, and you could have them playing a live, a video of one of those gigs, and people would pay top dollar for that. But these people don't want to think this way, right? We'll preserve this mouldy building where someone who is completely irrelevant, 400 years later. And I love history, don't get me wrong, but let's keep that. But no, we won't. We'll. It's like I love archaeology. I'm a big fan of archaeology, and I would love to have been an archaeologist in a different life. We study, Neolithic and Paleolithic and Romans and Saxons and all that stuff, but we don't look at wartime archaeology, which is disappearing very, very quickly because it's not relevant. It is bloody relevant, and it's more relevant now than ever before. And I think it's the same with these music venues as the music industry's history is crumbling before our eyes. Should we not have some kind of place where people of our generation, and then maybe even our kids, who we could educate, we could take there? And I think that would have been a great idea. The marquee. And as I said, brilliant, you could have that venue and you could have those little gigs on video and pay that, 10 quid. Just imagine you pay 10 quid, which is like, since I've been back, that's pennies, or £10 for those from that aren't, more posh than me. 10 quid, £10, whatever. $5, whatever it is. You'd pay your fee, you'd sit in there for the afternoon or the evening. You could do record launches. I went to a fantastic record launch with Stephen Wilson and Stephen Morris from the Joy Division at the brilliant record store in the East End of London at Beggar's Banquet, and it was just, not Beggar's Banquet. That's a different place. God, I'm rambling. No, not Beggar's Banquet. Rough Trade East. It was Rough Trade Records, and no, I don't want to say Beggar's Banquet. It was a punk label. Rough Trade East, and it was amazing, right? It's a record store and we all sat down. There's about 30 of us, and I was dutifully near the front of the stage and listened to every word that Steve talked about, and both the Steves and John, the curator of the album. It was basically his album of progressive, a compilation of his favourite progressive new waves and punk records, but more in a progressive sound, and it was unbelievable. There were all these Illuminatis there. It was great. Like, it was Faces, a place to be. It was wonderful, and that's the kind of thing you could do. You could do there, right? You could have record launches and then chats. You could have all sorts of stuff that you could do in that venue, and I'm sure that it would make money. It would make money. I think people are just so short-sighted when it comes to this stuff, But anyway, where was I when they were pouring it down? And stuffing it with a nail salon or a bloody Costa Coffee or Pret a Manger, whatever the vacuous thing that they want to do in London these days. But you can still get corners of the world like Rough Trade Records East and things like that are full of these music lovers. And it was we sat there, it was about 30 of us, and it really felt... I actually picked up a signed test pressing of the album. It was great. But, it was a real sense of music nerds, it's the wrong term, people who love music lovers, getting together and talking about music, and in a different way it was more, I hope like this show, like I try to be a little bit more in depth, a little bit more interesting than just, hey, that sounds good sound, man, it's a little bit more esoteric, I think is the wrong word, probably the right word but also the wrong word, just more to get your teeth into, you know what I mean? And this is the sort of thing that when, like, we've got Record Store Day coming up on April the 22nd, which I'm really excited about. And this is another thing that sort of thing is important that we keep that going. But again, that's another episode, another story. But another thing that I found in London that really made my heart sink was I couldn't find a decent record store. Nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. I had to travel... I googled it, and I'd have to travel right into the East End of London. I didn't mind that because one of my favourite fish and chip shops. I don't eat fish or meat, but I do love chips, and they were Poppy's Chip Shop in Spitalfields is a place to behold. Anyway, you can't get a decent chip in London anymore. You can't get a decent curry in London, which is really outstandingly outrageous, and no record stores. So it was just very strange. I'm not trying to put you off going to London. London's a bloody amazing place. I mean, it's the cultural centre of the world, in my opinion. But it's just changed a bit for me. And the little bits that I was looking forward to weren't there. I was only there to look after my father. I wasn't there to party up. But it was nice to get away and do things. And that was one of those things that I couldn't find. I had to travel to the East End to get a decent chip. That is weird. Anyway... No record shops. Couldn't find one. Now, maybe I wasn't looking hard enough. Maybe I didn't have time. But in the 1 or 2 days I had spared to myself after I was looking after Dad, I didn't have the time to go, all that way. And I went to Camden Markets, and there was 1 or 2 there, but they were typically overpriced tourist vinyl traps, and I don't like that sort of stuff. I'm very anti against that, really. Don't tell me you want to charge me 40 quid for a dodgy copy of Still Got the Blues. It was issued, not even a special edition, just a really thinly printed reissue. In fact, I think it wasn't even a first issue. But anyway, that aside. So that was the Marquee. One of the venues that upset me. I've got one that upsets me even more when we come back after the break. Now, I'm not trying to bring you guys on a downer. I'm just trying to say that, hey, what's happening to our cultural heritage, where is it, and why is it happening, and it shouldn't happen, and there are ways around fixing these things. Renaming is fine. Calling the Apollo the event time, calling the Hammersmith Odeon the event time, or the Apollo, doesn't matter. It's still the same fucking building, it's still the same history, it's still the same heritage, it's just a different wrapper, right? Anyway, I'm going to have a break now, I'm going to warm my tea up, and I'll see you on the other side. Bye for now, guys. Welcome back, guys, to part 2 of Heavy Metal Tones. I walked down memory lane, live venues, and how it made me feel. Reaction. I did do a TikTok, I'm down with the homies, videos, as you might see if you go to my Facebook page, and I did discuss this. Now, the second venue, actually, I knew sort of the marquee had gone. That wasn't an issue when I went back. It was the blue plaque that upset me. What really, also, by the way, sorry, in the background, my wife is now singing Bang a Gong by T-Rex in the other room, so if he comes through now and again, I apologise. I doubt it, but anyway, she's having fun. So, yeah, so the one that really hurt the most, now, renames, as I said, doesn't bother me, like, I had a lot of fun. A lot of venues that I remember when it used to be those old, my generation and older, remember the Kentish Town and Country Club, then became the Forum. I think it's still the Forum. I could be wrong. I didn't go looking for it, to be honest, because I only ever used to go there if there was a gigs on. And again, I saw Stiff Little Fingers, Fish, Marillion, The Damned. I made a lot of punk stuff if I have to think about it. Most of the metal stuff I saw was usually in the smaller venues, maybe in things like sort of local pubs and stuff. Big acts were usually in big venues like the Wembley Arena and things like that. Anyway, I got off the train at Tottenham Court Road, and those that know London will know where Tottenham Court Road is. Tottenham Court Road. Now, there's been a vast expansion of the underground system in London since I've been there. And of course, because London is expanding and has a very large population. And so they need to get their population around the city. And it is the greatest underground system in the world, the greatest mass transport system on the planet. New York, you can fuck off. London, it definitely is. I had people who had big arguments about New York being the best. It is not. Clearly not. London is the oldest and the most extensive. You can get from anywhere to anywhere quickly in London on the underground. It's safe and extremely affordable if you live in the city. Not as a tourist, I found it a bit expensive, but weird calling myself a tourist in my own city, but I was, and I am. And I got off at Tottenham Court train station. Now, they just recently built this new wonderful train line that goes from Heathrow all the way out to the Sticks, the other end, called the Elizabeth line. It is beautiful. It is swish, clean, bright, fast, safe, and it just gets you there. You can get on at most Elizabeth, like Tottenham Court Road station, and be in Heathrow in 15 minutes, 20 minutes max. It's really, really good for international tourists. But when I got off, I went, I looked over the road, and there's the Dominion. And that was a theatre that I saw many great live shows in. Time the Musical. I saw Phil Cool, the comedian. Those that don't know who Phil Cool is, well, look him up. He used to pull funny faces. Anyway, fantastic times. And well, okay, that's still there. And I turned around and I walked up the road, and comic book shop that I used to go to a lot, that I used to go to back when it was on Denmark Street, Forbidden Planet, that's gone. I thought, okay, COVID and things like that, okay, changing tastes of people don't want comics anymore and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I turned to my left and looked straight up Tottenham Court Road, and what did I not see? What I did see was two dirty, great, big, modernist, millennium style glass and brick buildings that look like they should be in Japan or New York. Big, 50-foot video screens flashing images of Cartier and Tiffany and whatever, flashing itself up there. And I looked over, and what was completely obvious that wasn't there was the Astoria. Now, the Astoria means a lot more to me than the Marquee. The reason the Astoria, I'm going to get some paper here, Russell, quality radio, quality program, quality, listen to this, oh my God, where was my Astoria? That's it, separate paper. The Astoria means a lot to me because it was a formative venue. I went there when I was 17 to a nightclub. I think it was called the Spider Web. I'm vague, right? I can't find any information on it online. It was a heavy metal nightclub. You had to be 18 to get in because there was alcohol served. I was 17. I blagged myself in with my much older mates. I met lots of girls there, scantily dressed in all sorts of risque. Most of them were barely dressed, to be honest. It was a fantastic night. I couldn't afford to drink a lot, so I'd buy one pint, make it last the evening. I was lucky someone else might buy me one, or you might take some kind of substance that might make sure you don't need to have alcohol. I'm not condoning that. We just did. Now, the Astoria, the 157 Charing Cross Road. Originally a warehouse in the 1920s, became a cinema and then a ballroom, then was converted to a theatre in the 70s and reopened in the mid-80s as a nightclub and a music venue. It is important to me because that's the very first place I took my darling wife Karen to a gig. As a couple, I took her to see The Damned and the Anti-Nowhere League, and it was possibly one of the most enjoyable evenings of my life musically. It was brilliant. The Damned were going through a bit of that phase with the Eloise phase with the big hair and the goth thing, which isn't really my scene of The Damned. I'm more your Machine Gun Etiquette, as you know, Damned and that sort of stuff, Strawberries. But I don't really do I didn't really enjoy Phantasmagoria. It wasn't my kind of thing. But that was what they were, the Anti-Nowhere League with the Anti-Nowhere League, mate. You're never going to get a band like them anywhere else on the planet. If you don't know who they are, I'm not going to explain to you. Do yourself a favour. Tune into them. Do it somewhere quiet. Don't do it loud when your saintly aunts might be around, because there are lyrics to songs like Woman and Snowman and So What that might cause offence to some wokest of our society. Anyway, that aside, it had a beautiful theatre front, just like like an old cinema. It had a hoarding, and it had neoclassical architecture. It had two levels. You had the balcony at the top. I remember sitting behind this guy. Karen was, I think at the time, was pregnant. We went there for the second time or third time, and the guy in front of us had a toy. I think we were seeing the Stiff Little Fingers, and he had a huge Mohican, and we had a Toy Dolls shirt on it, and I love the Toy Dolls, and all I could think of in my head was that song Nelly the Elephant. They did, and again, you YouTube that, absolutely brilliant fun. But yeah, it's so really important, personal to me, right? Personal to my development in my life, my personal development in my relationship, and my music development. I saw what Kerrang called the greatest gig of all time, which was Killing Joke in 1994. And it was on the back of the Pandemonium tour, and it was, to say life-changing, it's really twee and overused, but fuck, it was an amazing gig. I like with all Killing Joke gigs, I don't remember the start, I don't remember the middle, and don't remember the end. I just get into a trance and get into this rhythmic moment, and it's either it's a mixture of tribal dancing, head banging, pogoing, punch ups, and spinning around, and it's everything. I've already described how much I love that band, but amazing, right? Absolutely amazing. It held between 1,600 to 2,000 people, and it officially opened as a musical venue in 1976. It says here on January, and it closed on the 15th of January 2009. Now, listen to this for a list of live recordings that was made at the Astoria. Okay, I'm going to put out a lot of them, so hold your horses. This could get a bit boring. Generation X recorded a one-off concert performed at the venue on the 20th of September 1983. It was filmed by Chrysalis Records. Jamiroquai, the Smashing Pumpkins, the Cranberries. I've got here New Model Army, The Darkness, Metallica, Uriah Heep, Twisted Sister, Marillion, Dio, Black Label Society. Deep Purple, Steve Vai, Diamond Head. But just a few. I'm literally just sort of picking. Sorry, it's really, I'm putting this off. See how professional I am. Okay, Tangerine Dream, Nirvana, Blackstone Cherry. That Might Be Giants, Slipknot. And here's the sad bit, guys. This is the bit that really I find. Okay, so in June 2006, the Astoria was sold by the Campio Holdings to property group Derwent Valley Central for $23.75 million. It was rumoured that the buyers were planning to convert the site into a combination of shops, flats and offices. Oh, I've got a shiver just thinking about it. Taking advantage of the increase in property prices due to the forthcoming 2012 Olympics. Yeah, fuck, too cool. On the 13th of August 2007, which is my darling daughter's birthday, Festival Republic sold most of its venues and rights to the name of the Mean Fiddler. Now, the Mean Fiddler was a venue that in North London, or West London, might be. Where is it? North. It's in Harlow anyway. The Mean Fiddler. Here we go live. Here it is with you live. Willesden, I think it is. Sorry. The Mean Fiddler. The Mean Fiddler. God, I typed in the Mink Fiddler into my. Where was it? Okay, here, Irish pub, right? Yeah, I don't know. Okay. Royal Oak. Sorry, yes. Anyway, I think that's what it is. I'll do more research, put in the notes. But anyway, the Mean Fiddler was a venue that I used to go to. Again with Karen, it's still there. It's fantastic, great music. But anyway, it was sold to the Mean Fiddler group, and it retained the Astoria and the Mean Fiddler, which reverted to the old name of the Astoria 2, generally known as LA2. I remember that because I remember Killing Joke playing at LA2. And in 2008, it became known as the Astoria would be demolished to make way for the Crossrail Link. So the Crossrail Link is the great big new underground, as I mentioned, the Elizabeth Line and so on. So the Mean Fiddler owned it and sold it with the almighty pound. Now, yes, they would have done their checks. They would have said, right, here is where we're going to put this fucking great big train station, so we need to remove this. And it's a dank old venue no one cares about. Wrong on so many levels. Of course, it's something important. Look, I just run off a list quickly off the top of my list of things that were recorded there live. Again, it also had that amazing sense of rock and roll, because it was like an old theatre. Everyone's been to Sydney here and has been to the venue in Sydney, which eludes my brain because it's late night now. But anyway, there is a venue there that's like an old cinema. It's been converted. Again, sorry, brain fuzz, stupid. It will come to me in a moment, and I'll tell you. Anyway, those kind of venues that are repurpose built from theatres. And again, the Enmore is another one in Sydney. They purpose built them from theatres with because no one go their live theatre is a dead art, to music, because it's an easy way of making money, because instead of having to set a theatre company up and sit them there for weeks, you can bump in and bump out a show every night, and each night has a different audience. Each audience has a different way of spending money, more merch dollars, more alcohol dollars through the bar, whatever. It's an easy thing. It's easy conversion. Look at the Hamzavodian. It's the same thing. Okay, so the point is, what I'm saying is, wrong on so many levels. They didn't need to do it. I'm sure they could have found a different route, but it wasn't important enough, was it? It wasn't a listed building yet. Had that been listed, they would have rerouted that somewhere else. Now, yeah, it takes more time. You might knock down a different building, which again might also break someone's heart. But I'm talking about the way that I feel read this, because it's important. I don't have that. I can't go back now with Karen and say, do you remember this? Remember we go in where we saw the Anti-Nowhere League in our first date? No, can't do that, because it's no longer, it's destroyed. And the sad thing about this, until I did research, I was so adamantly in awe of this new Crossrail link, this amazing new train line, because I grew up on the Northern Line, which is a shithole of a train line, dirty and old, and the carriages are all, they're still the same when I left, the same they are now. This new train system is fantastic, and being a non-driver and a user of public transport, I found it really lovely. But then I now have this bittersweet annoyance, because I don't have my nightclubs that I went to and took illegal substances and drank underage and listened to heavy metal and pounced around like an idiot in my youth. I don't have that. I don't have that seat that I sat there. I'll tell you why it also came back to me. It was like when I went to see the Lamb Lies Down on Broadway gig at the Hamzavodian, there was a guy next to me, and he goes, "Look, do you mind? I'm just going to look after my goat. I'm just going to go up the stairs." And he went up to the top of the venue, and he sat down in one of the seats, and then he sat there for a few minutes. He came back, and he had a little tear in his eye, and he goes, "You know what?" He goes, "I don't live in London anymore, and I'm back here for a few days, just feel like me." And he goes, "That's where I sat in 1977 and I saw Rush in that seat." And I thought, fucking hell. And I looked up and I thought, can I see there it is, there's the seat I sat when I went and saw Black Sabbath. And that, that one act, that one moment for that middle-aged man, that older man, for him, because we're all aging, right? And so, we don't have youth on our side, and so we do look back. As you go older, you look back. You don't look forward, you look back, because looking forward as an older man means the chasm of your demise, but looking back is memories of your youth and forever past, right? And you look back, and he had. I'm sure that moment was a really wonderful moment for him, and I felt that very similar thing, looking at the hoarding of the Hamzavodian, thinking, God, I remember queuing here to get my tickets for Marillion and for Fish and for Black Sabbath and I saw there, and just anyway. And I thought now, retrospectively, there are people that would go to the Astoria, and go, I'm going to go and sit on that seat in the balcony at the back there, and no, sorry, progress has taken that away from you. Now, it is elemental, isn't it? Things that I'm talking about, things that it's not in the great scheme of things. Moving people around a major metropolitan city easily and freely will increase money and more bands and more art and more creativity, because people haven't got to worry about how they're getting around the city, and you will bring more tourist dollars. And yes, I know, before you start shouting at me and saying, but progress is progress, but at the same time, it feels like our culture, particularly our culture, guys, is being eroded away a bit by bit at a time. You go to New York, CBGB's is still there. It's still there, right? We've lost the Lyceum to become a theatre now that plays the Lion King. Lyceum Theatre it played host to every punk band. It was the venue to place to be in the late 70s, early 80s. It was a shithole. The Pistols played there, X-Ray Specs, you name it, they played it, right? Now it's a classy theatre that holds a major West End musical. Fine, it's progress. Still being used. You can still go there as a young, as a middle-aged man and stand in front and go, oh, gee, Lyceum, look, it's different now, but it's the same. Same with the 100 Club. The 100 Club played the very first punk festival ever. It's where Sid Vicious played on drums for the very first gig ever by Susie and the Banshees. It was the first place that French punk played. It was the first place one of the first places that the Pistols played live. It was where the Clash played one of their first gigs. But that's still there. The 100 Club is still there because it's a jazz venue, and because it's a jazz venue, it's still there. I still in Soho, the strip clubs that the Pistols played in, they're gone. That's fine because, as I said before at the beginning of the show, it's not a purpose-built venue, so it will die because it was only used as a shock tactic to sell records, and also because no one else would let them play. Fair enough. And also I think that McLaren and the guys like the seediness of it, and I agree, I love it. The Screen on the Green, the famous pub gig that everyone went to is still there in Muswell Hill. But these other venues, these central London venues, they've just been taken away, and I think maybe am I overthinking it, guys? Am I being too rose tinted? I mean, how do you feel? Are there venues that you in your towns that you have gone that upset you? I mean, here in Canberra, we have the basement and we're very lucky. We used to have a place here called the Green Room. I love the Green Room. Saw Hugh Cornwell there, which like 12. There was about 6 of us. It was amazing. It was an acoustic set. It was just astoundingly fantastic. I think Maiden even played a secret gig there at the Green Room, which was crazy. We also had like really a dodgy place. To be honest, it was quite violent and quite dodgy, but I loved it. And that was the Gypsy Bar. I only saw one band there, but it was an eye opener. I saw the Dropkick Murphys there. Took my wife. We got free tickets, and she did not. We were meant to go backstage, which was like, nope. Let's go home. It was a place that it was a bit rough. And these are the kind of places. These are the kind of things that we miss. I'm rambling now because I just want to say I'm really sad about the Astoria going. And anyone wants to do some research, any of those bands, you can look at watch a live gig there and see what it was like. Have a look at some pictures. If I can remember, I'll put some pictures up on my Facebook page for the Marquee and the Astoria. Both of them epitomised rock and roll to me. Sticky floors, loud, terrible sound systems, sweat, tears, blood, rock and roll. You name it. It's the pure essence of what we listen to. It's the beating heart of all of it, isn't it? And when we take that beating heart away, it becomes a dead body, doesn't it? It just dies. It becomes this corporate, flaccid entity that we can all agree is not something we want. So anyway, I hope that's made you think about some of the venues that you used to haunt when you were younger. And if you're young now, listen to this and think, oh yeah, I'm still young enough to not have that. You know what? Then you build those memories. Go to those venues when there's a band on there, even if you're not sure about them. Buy that ticket, go, build that memory. So when you look back in 30 years' time, when they have destroyed it, because they will, you can go, you know what? I have that memory. And I think that's that one thing they can't take on. My father sadly is going through I wouldn't say early onset, it's quite set in dementia, and his memories are all trapped and disappearing, and I would not want that for me. I don't want that for any of you guys, so grab those memories while you can and enjoy them while you have them. Anyway, on that maudlin note, hopefully next week I will be interviewing Michael from Metal Ruse, this time again with my mic working, which is great. That might also be on the YouTube's channels, the Metal Ruse YouTube channel, once it goes up. I'm looking to get him locked in this week, so hopefully that's next week's episode. And then after that, I've got a few good album reviews I'm looking forward to spilling out. So I hope you enjoyed that. Trip down memory lane and some sadness and some good memories as well. But as I said, reach out to me at Heavy Metal Tones Facebook page. You can message me or just put it on the Facebook page about the venues that you visited. Are they still around? Have they gone? Did you go to the very last gig there? Do you remember? And let me know how you feel. It made you feel, and how it makes you feel. I'm interested to know. Anyway, bye for now, guys. Talk to you next week. Oh, not the mic. Classic tone.